Find your next big obsession.
It's only about the money.
And about us taking it from them.
Just press red for the best way to watch TV on BBC iPlayer.
All our kids have gone off to uni, so it's time for the next chapter.
I was just paying tribute to the greatest band of all time.
Which, to be fair, is what Oasis do.
We need someone with no acting experience at all. Hello. You're quite odd, aren't you?
Should see what's under my floorboards. You messed up getting the tickets.
I'm sorry.
Apology accepted. I don't mind being shot from behind.
Don't tempt me.
The new series of Not Going Out starts Friday the 13th of June on BBC One and iPlayer.
This is BBC One. Now at 10 o'clock, the news with Rita Chakrabarti.
Tonight at 10, at least 27 Palestinians are shot and killed in yet another incident at an aid distribution centre in Gaza. Fear and panic near the scene. Israel says it did open fire on a group who'd left the official route, but denies targeting civilians.
There was gunfire from the tanks, direct fire on us. There were many injuries.
Also tonight, in the last few minutes, Donald Trump has confirmed that the UK will be exempt from his plans to increase import taxes on steel. A new search for Madeleine McCann, just miles from where she vanished in the Algarve 18 years ago. MI5 issues an unreserved apology for giving false evidence in court about a violent agent while attempting to block a BBC story about the case. And the jewel in the Midlands crown, Birmingham is recognised for its global influence in jewellery making.
On BBC London, promised after Grenfell, a transformation of the estate around the tower, but 8 years on, it's still facing delays.
Good evening. For the third day in a row, Palestinians in southern Gaza have been killed as they tried to get aid from a distribution point that's been set up by Israel and the US. The Israeli military said this evening that it would investigate the latest reported killings, that of 27 Palestinians who, according to the Red Cross, were shot near an aid centre run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Earlier in the day, the Israeli government said it did open fire on a group who deviated from the designated route and ignored warning shots. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said the world was witnessing unthinkable loss of life in Gaza and that it was unacceptable. Israel doesn't allow international journalists, including the BBC, to report from inside Gaza, but we rely on trusted local freelancers. Lucy Williamson reports now from Jerusalem.
In Gaza, when you're less than half a mile from food aid, you keep going, even under fire. This video from a local journalists group appears to show the chaos this morning near an Israeli-backed aid site, where dozens were shot dead. The casualties evacuated on donkey carts, alongside sacks of aid. The area where they were shot, under full Israeli military control, out of reach of rescue teams. This grim routine repeated here for a third day.
Come get aid. The road is safe and proper.
contractors. It's backed by both the US and Israel and bypasses the UN. Across 3 days, there have been several allegations of Israeli killings of Palestinians who were on the way to get aid, which Israel denies. So far, 4 distribution sites have been set up, and these are hubs which Palestinians need to go to collect aid. You can see all of the distribution centres are in areas that are controlled by the Israeli army or areas under evacuation orders. But for several days, it's only kept one open, which is here in the south in Rafah. The foundation has designated so-called secured corridor routes for people to travel to get vital supplies. Eyewitness accounts from Palestinians have described coming under Israeli fire. Several of them refer to the area around this roundabout here. But Israel has dismissed what it calls false reports. And remember, this is the only way people can access aid now. Even on day 1, we saw chaotic scenes of a distribution site overrun by desperate Palestinians trampling over toppled barriers while sounds of gunshots rang out. And people have been risking their lives for dried and tinned goods. Getting hold of food has turned deadly for Palestinians. The UN has called for an immediate investigation, but it's clear that the system in place isn't working. Rita.
Merlin, thank you. Well, this is a story that is moving rapidly because we're just hearing news from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that they're in fact closing distribution centres tomorrow. We can speak now to our correspondent Gary O'Donoghue, who's in Washington for us. And Gary, this news has just come out in the last 2 minutes. What are we to make of it?
Yes, we've heard that the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, will be closing the distribution centres tomorrow for what they describe as organisational and efficiency improvements. They don't specify what that means. They do say that they will reopen on Thursday. So at this point in time, it looks like a temporary thing. They've had some problems in the last few days, as not just with the incidents near their centres, but they've lost their executive director just before the operation started. A new one's been appointed today. He's Reverend Johnny Moore. He's a close ally of Donald Trump. And they've also lost the consulting group, the consultants who were working with them. So there have been a few setbacks here. Also, I think it's worth saying that the administration here is pushing back quite hard on criticism of the GHF. They're saying, the State Department, for example, saying, look, it's delivered 7 million meals in its first week of operation. While things aren't perfect, they are looking at ways of improvement. And there only needs to be this sort of security situation on the ground, they say, because Hamas won't lay down its weapons. Now, the other element of this is that there's been significant criticism of the media's reporting of what's been happening in the last 3 days. The US ambassador to Israel talked about reckless and irresponsible reporting, and he named several US news organizations. And here at the White House today, they criticised the BBC for what they said it had taken the total truth from Hamas. That's an allegation that the BBC rejects. What we're going to see tomorrow is some more activity at the United Nations. And as we know, the UN, along with other major aid organisations, are deeply unhappy about the way this distribution system is working. And I think we can say at this point in time, its effectiveness and what happens around these distribution centres is far from satisfactory to anyone.
Gary, thank you very much. Gary O'Donoghue reporting there. Well, plenty of news tonight out of the US, because a few minutes before we came on the air, we got an update from the White House about Donald Trump's steel tariffs, with news that the UK has an exemption on the 50% tariff. Our business editor, Simon Jack, is here. Tell us more.
So the UK was facing an increase of 25% to 50% along with all other countries. Donald Trump announced this at the end of last week that in order to protect the US steel industry, he would raise those tariffs to protect those jobs. Now, there was some confusion as to whether that would apply to the UK, because you will remember 3 weeks ago that the UK and the US did a deal which would eventually eliminate all tariffs on steel going from the UK to the US. But that deal is not in place yet, so there was some confusion pending the signing of that deal. Would the UK be in the same boat as everyone else, seeing tariffs double from 25 to 50%? We now got the news that, in fact, it will not and will get that exemption. I've just had this statement from the government. We're pleased as a result of our agreement with the US, the UK still will not be subject to these additional tariffs. We'll continue to work with the US to implement our agreement, which will see the 25% US tariffs on steel removed. So 25% stays in place for now. So the UK has got a better deal. That economic prosperity deal, that deal they did, is not, as I say, not yet in force and will come into. It's unclear when it will come in. The US says, though, it reserves the right after July the 9th, saying that if the UK doesn't play ball, it will be subject to the 50% tariffs. But I think a personal victory here for the business secretary, who's been attending a meeting of trade ministers in Paris and had some intense negotiations with his opposite number, Jameson Greer, and this appears to be the result of it. So a bit of a win for the UK here.
Simon, thank you very much. Simon Jack, our business editor there. In Portugal, it's been the first day of a new search in the case of Madeleine McCann, 18 years after the 3-year-old disappeared during a family holiday. German police, who are leading the search with the help of Portuguese officers, are trying to establish any connection between Madeleine and a man who's currently in prison in Germany. The toddler disappeared as she was staying here with her family in the Algarve in an apartment complex in May 2007. She vanished from the Ocean Club Resort in Praia de Luz. The new search is focused on several different plots of land 3.5 miles from where she went missing. It's near where the prime suspect in the case, Christian Bruckner, lived during his time in the area. He's denied any involvement. This report is from our correspondent Daniel Sanford in Praia de Luz.
18 years on from the harrowing disappearance of Madeleine McCann, the coastline near Praia de Luz was once again today littered with police search teams. This is a German-led operation authorised by the Portuguese prosecutor. Among the gorse bushes, the Germans have built a base for their operation, which is expected to last all week. Dotted around in this scrubland on the edge of the Atlantic, there are small search teams working in pockets. Some are working on ruined buildings, others are pumping out old wells and water tanks with the help of the Portuguese fire service. The prosecutor has given the police permission to go onto private land to search the wells and to excavate. They're looking for any evidence, any trace of what happened to the missing 3-year-old. Madeleine McCann disappeared from her room at the Ocean Club Resort in Praia de Luz in May 2007, just before her 4th birthday. At first, the Portuguese police ran the investigation. For a while, even Madeleine McCann's parents fell under suspicion. In 2011, the then Prime Minister David Cameron asked the Metropolitan Police to review the case. There were extensive searches in 2014. In 2020, German prosecutors said they had a suspect, later identified as Christian Bruckner. Since then, German police have been in the lead. Christian Bruckner is currently in prison in Germany for raping an elderly American woman in Portugal in 2005, but he could be released as early as September.
There's a sense that this is a last roll of the dice within this phase to try and get that piece, that evidential piece of the jigsaw that inextricably ties their suspect, to their principal belief that he is guilty of abducting Madeleine McCann.
Did you kidnap and kill Madeleine McCann, Mr. Bruckner?
Through his lawyers, Christian Bruckner has always denied any involvement in Madeleine McCann's disappearance. It means that this year's search above the beautiful Algarve coastline has a greater sense of urgency than previous ones. But it is a large area dotted with old buildings, and it is 18 years since Madeleine McCann vanished from her room at the Ocean Club Resort.
We can speak to Daniel in Praia de Luz now. Daniel, is there any sign of how soon police expect to find out the results of the searches?
Well, Rita, although these searches today were having to be carried out in full public view, this is a criminal investigation, and you've noticed that neither the German police nor the Portuguese prosecutors were giving evidence. So I don't expect to be given a running commentary on whether anything is found in those abandoned buildings and wells. Much more likely, I think, if any evidence is uncovered, it'll be taken back to Germany for careful analysis, and we'll only know the result of that in several weeks or months. All that said, I do think it's very significant that the Germans are back searching in scrubland so close to this resort where Madeleine McCann disappeared 18 years ago. And it's not impossible, whether it's based on good intelligence or an investigator's hunch, that this will lead to a breakthrough and finally some sort of closure.
Daniel, thank you very much. Well, German police are running this investigation. Let's speak now to Jessica Parker, who's in Berlin for us. And Jess, it's a race against time for them.
I mean, it has been 5 years since Christian Bruckner was publicly identified as a suspect. But in that 5 years, he has never been charged in this case. And German prosecutors have never revealed the full details of their investigation. Investigators have claimed that Bruckner's mobile phone was detected in the area the night that Madeleine McCann disappeared, that a car linked to him was re-registered the next day. And separately, a former associate of Christian Bruckner has alleged that Bruckner at one time made an implied confession. Now, Christian Bruckner's legal team have dismissed these things as not concrete, as unreliable, and Bruckner, of course, has denied any involvement in Madeleine McCann's disappearance. But I think time is a crucial factor now in this story. Christian Bruckner could walk free as soon as September, and at that point, we don't know what he might do or where he might go. But there is open speculation here that he could leave Germany at some point, even go to a country where there is no extradition treaty. So that is putting added pressure on prosecutors and on the search in Portugal.
Thank you very much, Jessica. MI5 has issued an unreserved apology over false evidence given in court about a violent agent who used his role as a spy to coerce and terrorise his girlfriend. That evidence, eventually given in 3 courts, was initially used in an attempt to block a BBC story about the man. The agent, known only as X, infiltrated and informed on extremist groups for MI5. But he is himself a neo-Nazi and a misogynist who attacked his girlfriend with a machete. Daniel De Simone has this story.
This case started with violence, including this machete attack inflicted by an MI5 agent on his partner. It has become a test of whether courts and the public can believe MI5. The man, known only as X, used his MI5 role to coerce his girlfriend, known by the alias Beth. When the BBC sought to name him, MI5 took it to court and gained him legal anonymity. But MI5 gave false evidence by saying it hadn't disclosed he was an agent to me. This helped them keep his status officially secret. This year, the BBC proved the evidence was false, with a recording I made of an MI5 officer telling me the man was an agent in an attempt to stop me investigating him.
We pretty strongly assess that he actually wasn't responsible for doing the things that has been alleged, such as the machete incident.
Today, a panel of senior judges heard submissions on the false evidence from the government on behalf of MI5 and the BBC. They were told MI5 now accepts it can't maintain its neither confirm nor deny secrecy policy on the man's agent status.
I think this case has really undermined MI5's credibility in the courts.
The lawyer for his ex-girlfriend Beth says she'll now get a fair trial of her legal claim, which says MI5 failed to protect her.
It's a huge outcome for Beth. It's huge. She's had to fight this all the way to the High Court. So to achieve this outcome, to get to the point where MI5 have had to concede that it's not appropriate to rely on that policy, is enormous and is going to mean that she is now going to have some degree of transparency in the way that her claim is dealt with by the tribunal.
The court will also decide what to do about the false evidence from MI5. An internal inquiry said it was down to mistakes and poor memories. The government says MI5 is sorry. For the BBC, Jude Bunting-Casey said there was evidence of lies by MI5 officers, the internal inquiry was lacklustre, and MI5 tried to keep damning material from the court. The Lady Chief Justice, Baroness Sue Carr, said the situation was very, very serious. One option under consideration is starting a contempt of court process against individual MI5 officers, or MI5 itself. The judges will rule at a later date on what to do next about the false evidence.
I've already lost years of my life to X and his abuse, and I'd very much like there to be an end to it so I can return to some kind of normal life.
But today's hearing has been a major step forward in one woman's quest for answers from MI5.
And Daniel's with me, so a big step forward for the victim, as you say, but what does this do for trust in MI5?
Well, MI5 has always really been given enormous deference by the courts. Its evidence has been seen as a gold standard. But this case has raised real questions about that, raised questions about the whole way it gives evidence. I think the way it gives evidence is going to change. And this really matters, because if you think about the types of cases that MI5 gets involved in, it has a real impact on people's lives. So the truthfulness and reliability of its evidence is really important. Now, at its heart, this case has always been about violence against women and girls and the importance the state places on that. But it's also now become about the reliability of MI5 as an organisation and about the truthfulness of its explanation about how it came to give false evidence.
Thank you very much. Daniel de Simone there. Let's join Victoria Derbyshire, who's on Newsnight on BBC Two shortly. Hi, Victoria.
Hello, Rita. Tonight, the Home Secretary has revealed that almost 300 historic cases of child sexual exploitation will be reviewed by police in England and Wales. Will survivors finally get justice for these horrific crimes? And after last night's Newsnight on grooming and rape gangs, some of the women on our programme were invited to meet the Home Office Minister, Jess Phillips. Today, find out what happened at 10:30 on BBC Two, BBC News and iPlayer.
Thank you, Victoria. Ukraine says it's targeted the Kerch Bridge that links Russia to occupied Crimea, a key supply route for Moscow. There was a massive underwater explosion that Ukraine says it's been planning for months by placing explosives under the bridge to try to damage its foundations. The Kerch Bridge was opened by President Putin in 2018 after his annexation of Crimea 4 years earlier. A misconduct hearing has been told that a black schoolgirl known as Child Q was demeaned and physically violated when she was strip-searched at school by police after being wrongly suspected of carrying cannabis. Outrage over the girl's treatment led to protests after it was revealed that she'd arrived at school for a mock exam and was taken to the medical room where she was strip-searched, allegedly without an appropriate adult. She was 15 at the time and on her period. The 3 Metropolitan Police officers who carried out the search deny gross misconduct. The government says that better weather this year is partly responsible for more people crossing the Channel on small boats. The Conservatives say that's a lazy excuse. Chris Mason is here with me. Is the government at the mercy of the weather, Chris?
Well, it is, Rita, up to a point. It begs the question, doesn't it? Why are they doing this? Why are they saying this? I think they want to provide context for why the numbers are going up, and going up big time in some instances. So if you compare so far this year with the same period last year, numbers are up by 40%. About 15,000 people have made the crossing. 1,200 arrived in just one day on Saturday at the weekend. So ministers want to provide this context. There is other context as well, though. The effectiveness of the criminal gangs, the effectiveness or otherwise of French policing, the numbers with a desire to try and attempt a crossing. Now, there is some hope that more people cramming themselves onto boats is a sign that there might be successful disruption going on up to a point with the supply of boats and the supply of engines. But the blunt truth at the moment is that this government, like the last one, does not have this under control, but is determined to be muscular and to look muscular around the wider issue of irregular, illegal migration. Tonight, the Home Office announcing that in the early hours of this morning, 6 people were arrested on suspicion of facilitating the illegal entry into the UK of more than 200 people from Botswana in southern Africa. So a real attempt to emphasise what they see as that muscularity.
Thank you very much. Chris Mason there. An Australian woman accused of murdering her estranged husband's parents and aunt by serving them poisonous mushrooms has told her trial that she started foraging during a COVID lockdown. Erin Patterson said she used exotic mushrooms for more flavour. She accepted she had served death cap mushrooms at the family meal in rural Victoria, but argued that it was an accident. She denies murder and the attempted murder of her husband's uncle. Now, it's less than a month until Euro 2025 begins, and the home nations have all been in action this evening. Northern Ireland drew with Bosnia-Herzegovina, while Scotland drew against the Netherlands. Wales lost to Italy, and the defending champions England lost to Spain in Barcelona, from where Joe Curry reports.
España! España! The world champions preparing to welcome the European title holders, both determined to put down a marker with the Euros now less than a month away. With the winner also claiming a spot in the Nations League finals, so there's plenty at stake. In 2 days' time, manager Serena Wiegmann will name her tournament squad. One last chance to impress for her players then. Someone whose place on the plane is guaranteed is striker Alessia Russo. England knew they wouldn't get many chances, but she made the most of this one.
A star striker this season.
As England took the lead in Barcelona. But after the break, substitute Claudia Pina, who'd been on the pitch for all of 2 minutes, did this to draw Spain level.
A clinical finisher.
And then followed that up with another wonderful individual effort to bring the Catalan crowd to life.
Claudia Pina punishing England.
England outgunned in the second half, couldn't find a way back. The defeat ensuring they missed out on the finals once again, and that perhaps they're not hitting top gear just yet.
We go toe-to-toe with Spain, the world champions. I think on another day we can win this game. So yeah, we'll see if we meet them in Switzerland. We'll see what happens there.
Meanwhile, Wales's Euros preparation also didn't finish on a positive note, as they were stunned 4-1 by Italy in Swansea to finish bottom of the group. And the result wasn't their only concern, as goalkeeper Olivia Clark had to be substituted off injured. This team still has questions to answer before they reach Switzerland. Joe Curry, BBC News, Barcelona.
Birmingham has been home to the jewellery industry for hundreds of years. At its peak, it employed around 20,000 people. There are still around 700 businesses in the city's jewellery quarter today, which is why Birmingham has been declared a world craft city, as David Silito has been finding out.
Birmingham. And if you're looking to buy jewellery, this is the place to come. The city's famous jewellery quarter. But this is more than just a shopping district.
So we've got lab-grown diamonds here. We've got the Aphrodite Garden collection.
Most jewellery these days is made abroad, isn't it? But
this... It's made 2-minute walk from just
a 2-minute walk across the road?
Exactly, just across the road.
So this really is a local business, isn't it?
Exactly, so we like to support local communities.
Indeed, just across the road I met Andrew, who's brought jewellery making back to this particular Birmingham landmark.
So this was an old Victorian jewellery building?
Yep, originally purpose-built. We took the building on about 2 years ago and have restored it back to what I was originally doing, which is jewellery making.
So you're the first jewellers back in here in many years?
Yeah, in about 30 years we're the first.
Most of the craft workers here are in their 20s.
This is pretty much the same technique as what would have previously used for decades. So
this is Birmingham craft.
Yeah, it's its finest.
We're the biggest jewellery quarter in the world, and something like what's happened now is it puts a bigger stamp on it.
This award of World Craft City is honouring a heritage that goes back 250 years.
In the past, Birmingham was described as the city of 1,000 trades, and while so much has gone over the years, as you can see, jewellery making has survived.
A spotlight then on a British craft survivor, one that even some of the workers here knew little about.
Were you surprised by how much is here?
Yes, completely. And all the different, sort of, everyone's known for a different thing. And you go to, and everyone sort of knows everyone, which is nice. Like, I think there is quite a big sense of community.
400 businesses, 40% of all UK-made jewellery comes from this World Craft City. David Silito, BBC News, Birmingham.
Time for a look at the weather now with Stav. Not a very sparkling day, Stav.
No, cooler, windy, felt more like early spring, didn't it, than early June. I know, Rita, but windy in the rain. It's been very dry for spring, record-breaking dry and sunny spring, remember. So we've got a week of unsettled weather. Today we saw temperatures reach 20 degrees in both Cambridge and Coningsby, Lincolnshire. I think we'll be struggling to reach those values over the next few days. Lots of showers rattling through thanks to low pressure, which will be sitting to the north of the UK. Stays windy across Scotland and Northern Ireland tonight. Lots of heavy showers here. Fewer showers for England and Wales. Lengthy clear skies. 7 to 10 degrees, a little bit milder than what it was last night here. However, it starts off dry, some sunshine tomorrow. Showers from the word go, though, in the north and the west. These rattling through on a strong wind. Again, very windy for the coasts and the hills of the Highlands and Grampians, in excess of 40 miles an hour here. Not as windy further south as what it was today, but still quite blustery. So that'll take the edge off the temperatures, even when the sunshine comes along. We're looking at the mid to high teens, I think, for both. That is below par for early June. This weather front moves in, enhancing the shower activity for Thursday. So we could see a wet morning for England and Wales, Northern Ireland, the far south of Scotland. Some of it could be quite heavy, and then it's followed by sunshine and showers again into the afternoon. The wind's a little bit lighter at this stage, and temperatures again below par, 15 to 17 degrees. Similar story as we head into Friday. We've got low pressure to the north, several weather fronts spiralling in from the west, enhancing the rain at times. Friday we could see a wet spell through the morning. That'll be followed by sunshine and showers into the afternoon. Some of these will be heavy and thundery. Into the weekend, similar story. Saturday we could see some heavy thundery downpours, parts of England and Wales. Sunday there's a greater chance, I think, of seeing some drier weather for England and Wales, but heavy showers further north. Rita.
Okay, thank you very much, Stav. And that is tonight's BBC News at 10. News continues here on BBC One, as now it's time for the news where you are. Bye-bye.